In the vast theater of the cosmos, where stars blaze and fade like fireworks in an endless night, evolution has spun one of its most curious tales. It's not a story about the strongest or the fastest, nor the most beautifully adapted. It's a story about survival, about a species that, against every expectation, rose to rewrite the rules of the galaxy. Meet the Paragons, a race meticulously engineered by time and natural selection. Their bodies were crafted with precision, limbs like living weapons, senses sharp enough to detect the faintest heartbeat across kilometers, minds calculating probabilities faster than any computer. They considered themselves the perfect predators, the ultimate product of evolution's ruthless design. But lurking in the shadows of their pride was an unpredictable anomaly: humans. Not the fastest runners, nor the fiercest fighters, nor the most cunning schemers. Humans were survivors. They didn't have razor-sharp claws or toxic glands, nor the ability to outrun or outmuscle most creatures in the galaxy. Instead, they possessed something far less tangible, but infinitely more dangerous: relentless persistence. Where the Paragons planned every move with ruthless efficiency, humans thrived on chaos, intuition, and adaptability. Their strength wasn't perfection, it was their refusal to give up, no matter the odds. This is the story of how the supposedly supreme hunters of the galaxy were humbled by a species that mastered the art of survival, not through power or speed, but through sheer, unpredictable will.
Long before humans wandered the stars, the Paragons had already carved their place as the galaxy's supreme hunters. Their bodies were engineered over millions of years, a blend of brute strength, razor-sharp reflexes, and senses honed to perfection. Every muscle, every bone was optimized for the hunt. Their claws could rend through the toughest armor. Their eyes could pierce the darkest shadows, and their minds could predict the slightest movement of prey. They were apex predators in the truest sense, feared across 17 star systems for their relentless efficiency and cold precision. But their strength was not merely physical. The Paragons cultivated a culture of discipline and honor. Their wars were battles of strategy and calculation, their diplomacy a chess game of power and influence. They believed themselves to be the pinnacle of evolution, the final step in nature's relentless climb toward perfection. Yet beneath their confidence lurked an old instinct, the need to dominate, to control, to never show weakness. It was a primal force that guided their every action, sharpening their edges like the blades they wielded in battle. In the Paragons' eyes, the galaxy was a giant hunting ground, and all other species were either prey or competition. They had no patience for weakness, no tolerance for chaos. Everything had to serve the greater purpose: survival of the fittest. And yet, for all their power and precision, the Paragons had yet to reckon with a species that defied all their expectations, a species that thrived not by perfect design, but by sheer will and unpredictability.
Humans didn't thrive because they were perfect, far from it. They thrived because they were messy, unpredictable, and stubbornly alive. While the Paragons spent countless generations perfecting every muscle, every nerve, humans learned to survive with what they had, sometimes barely enough. They were masters of adaptation, not because they were stronger or faster, but because they refused to quit. When faced with impossible odds, humans improvised. When their weapons failed, they invented new ones. When a plan fell apart, they changed the plan, often in the middle of the fight. Where the paragons saw chaos as weakness, humans saw opportunity. Their societies weren't perfect machines. They were living, breathing puzzles full of contradictions and imperfections. But that messiness made them unpredictable. And unpredictability in a universe ruled by cold calculation was a kind of power. Across star systems, humans pushed forward. They built ships, colonies, alliances, all while their enemies watched and struggled to understand. They didn't fit into any model or strategy. The paragons, with their flawless tactics and genetic superiority, found themselves outmatched by sheer human will. It was a lesson that took centuries to learn. Sometimes it isn't about being perfect, it's about being relentless. And when it came to surviving, humans were the most relentless creatures in the galaxy.
The Nexus trade station was a marvel of engineering and diplomacy, a shining beacon of civilization amid the raw wilderness of space. Suspended at the crossroads of 17 star systems, it was where species from across the galaxy came to barter, negotiate, and sometimes silently threaten one another. For the paragons, it was a hunting ground masked by the veneer of civility. The bustling corridors, crowded marketplaces, and endless flow of diverse life forms created a perfect stage for predators and prey to dance their age-old dance of survival. Here, amidst the chaos of commerce, the ancient instincts simmered beneath the surface. Predators scanned for weakness, prey calculated escape routes. Security forces maintained order not just through firepower, but through the subtle threat of exile. Being banned from Nexus meant death for many. Among this swirling mosaic moved Vexthul, a seasoned paragon warrior whose very presence commanded fear. Clad in gleaming blue exoskeleton and equipped with an array of lethal appendages, he embodied the apex predator's confidence and ruthless efficiency. Yet even Vexthul found himself unsettled in the Nexus's crowded halls, for there was a new presence, an unfamiliar scent, a calm confidence that defied everything he knew about prey and predator. Something about this being stirred an ancient fear, an uncertainty that no amount of evolution had prepared him to face. As Vexthul navigated the maze of corridors, his instinct screamed caution. The galaxy's hierarchy was about to be challenged once more, and the balance of power threatened to shift forever.
Vexthul moved through the bustling marketplace with the practiced grace of a predator stalking its prey. His multiple sensory organs flicked through data streams, heat signatures, chemical traces, movement patterns, cataloging every potential threat and opportunity. Traders hawked exotic goods in countless languages, their voices a chaotic symphony, masking the silent tension beneath. Then he sensed it, a faint, almost imperceptible chemical signature, unfamiliar yet strangely compelling. His multiple eyes scanned the crowd until they locked onto a solitary figure standing near a display of crystalline artifacts. The being was unremarkable at first glance, roughly 2 meters tall, lacking visible weapons or armor, its skin a pale, pinkish hue.
a typical Category 5 target, weak, vulnerable, and insignificant. But something was off. The figure moved with a casual confidence that belied its vulnerability. Its eyes flicked constantly, subtly tracking multiple targets at once. Its posture was relaxed, yet alert, a contradiction that triggered Vexthal's instincts. This was no ordinary prey. This was a hunter, disguised as a harmless civilian. A cold ripple of unease ran through Vexthal's exoskeleton. He had encountered many species, many hunters, but none like this. The human was an enigma, fragile yet formidable, ordinary yet extraordinary. As the crowd flowed around them, unaware of the silent standoff unfolding, Vexthal's mind raced through possibilities. Should he retreat, acknowledging the unknown threat, or confront it, risking a fight unlike any before? The answer came slowly, carried on the subtle shift in the human's stance, a barely perceptible readiness, a calm preparedness for conflict. This was no accident. This was a deliberate encounter.
Vexthal stood frozen for a heartbeat, the familiar surge of adrenaline mingling with a new, unsettling sensation: fear. An apex predator, feared across star systems, now found himself facing uncertainty, a predator who might be his superior. His instincts screamed at him to strike, to assert dominance, to remind this human why he was the hunter, not the hunted. But every measure of logic and experience pushed for caution. The human was no ordinary prey. This was a creature who had turned the galaxy's rules upside down. The marketplace continued its noisy bustle, oblivious to the internal storm raging within Vexthal. To onlookers, he was just another figure moving through the crowd. But inside, every sensor was firing, every nerve alert. Vexthal's mind raced through the ancient evolutionary lessons etched into his species' history: strength, speed, cunning. Yet none prepared him for this moment, where those attributes seemed less valuable than patience in restraint. The human remained calm, browsing the merchandise as if engaged in a mundane task, yet every subtle cue radiated readiness, a perfect predator's poise beneath the guise of casualness. For the first time in his long life, Vexthal faced a dilemma that could not be solved with claws or venom. It was a battle of wills, a test of survival beyond physical prowess.
The human moved through the marketplace with an unhurried grace, completely unaware, or perhaps intentionally indifferent, to the ripple of tension his presence caused. He was an enigma wrapped in simplicity. No visible weapons, no armor, just an ordinary figure blending seamlessly into the cosmic tapestry. Yet beneath the calm exterior was a mind finely tuned to danger, a mind trained for survival in ways the paragons could barely fathom. Every glance he cast was a calculated survey of his surroundings. Every casual step masked readiness for sudden action. The human's past was a web of battles fought in shadows, victories won through strategy and will rather than brute force. His reputation whispered through clandestine networks, an operative capable of dismantling entire operations with nothing more than his wits and resolve. To the paragons, This defied logic. How could a species so seemingly fragile become the galaxy's apex predator? But logic was only one part of the equation. The human's greatest weapon was unpredictability, the refusal to be confined by rules, genetics, or expectations. In a universe ruled by strength and precision, the human's existence was a paradox. He was the wild card that no algorithm could predict, the variable that made even the most evolved predators pause. As the human disappeared into the crowd, the Nexus trade station held its breath. A new chapter was beginning, one where survival was measured not just in strength, but in the courage to defy fate itself.
Beneath the surface of the Nexus trade station, hidden away from the eyes of the bustling marketplace, lay a network of secrets, whispers of past battles, covert operations, and alliances forged in the shadows. It was in these dark corridors that the human operative truly thrived. His training had been relentless, shaped by decades of conflict and survival against impossible odds. Every mission had been a test of his resolve, every victory a testament to human ingenuity and tenacity. He carried scars, both seen and unseen, reminders of battles fought not just with weapons, but with mind and spirit. The paragons might possess physical perfection, but the human strength lay in experience, hard-earned knowledge of when to strike and when to disappear. His presence at Nexus was no accident. It was a deliberate move in a larger game that spanned star systems and involved powers far beyond the immediate. As he navigated the labyrinthine halls beneath the station, memories flickered, images of lost comrades, narrow escapes, and the relentless pursuit of survival. Each step was measured, every decision weighed with precision born from years of necessity. The galaxy was changing, and the humans were at the center of that change. In the shadows, the stakes were higher than ever. The balance of power was shifting, and only those who could adapt would survive the coming storm.
The Nexus trade station, a melting pot of cultures and species, was beginning to feel the strain of change. Whispers of the human operative's presence spread quietly through the corridors and marketplaces, stirring unease among the paragons and other apex predators alike. Old alliances wavered as fear and suspicion took root. The calculated order that had kept the station functioning was cracking under the weight of uncertainty. Predators who once prowled with confidence now found themselves second-guessing every shadow. For the human, this tension was both a danger and an opportunity. Each cautious step he took rippled through the delicate ecosystem of Nexus, forcing players to reconsider their positions. His unpredictable nature disrupted the balance, turning the station from a place of controlled commerce into a volatile arena. Behind closed doors, secret meetings convened. The paragons debated how to respond to this unprecedented threat, torn between pride and survival. Some advocated for elimination, others for observation, but all agreed on one point: the human was a force unlike any they had faced. As the station held its breath, the stage was set for a confrontation that could redefine the galaxy's power structure. The apex predators were no longer the uncontested rulers. A new era was dawning, one shaped by persistence, adaptability, and the unyielding human spirit.
The days that followed felt like the quiet moments before a tempest, a deceptive lull where every shadow seemed to hold a secret and every glance carried unspoken warnings. The Nexus trade station, though bustling as ever, was thick with an undercurrent of tension. Vexthul and his fellow Paragons moved with heightened awareness, their instincts alert to every shift in the crowd. The human operative's subtle influence had unsettled even the most seasoned predators, fracturing the illusion of control that had long defined their reign. Yet, the human remained elusive, his actions measured and purposeful. He blended into the station's rhythm, an unseen force quietly weaving his strategy through the layers of diplomacy, trade, and covert alliances. In the quiet corners of the station's shadowed lounges, whispers of the coming confrontation spread. Some feared it, others welcomed it, but all knew that the delicate balance of power was about to be tested. As the sun set beyond the station's vast observation windows, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The storm was coming, inevitable, unstoppable, and the players were readying themselves for a battle that would echo across the stars.
As the storm of conflict loomed ever closer, both the human operative and the Paragons sought allies and prepared for what lay ahead. The Nexus trade station became a web of secret meetings, guarded whispers, and carefully crafted strategies. The human moved with calculated precision, reaching out to species discontented with the old order. His reputation as a relentless survivor opened doors that were once firmly closed. Alliances formed in the shadows, fragile, tentative, but powerful in their shared desire for change. Meanwhile, the Paragons convened their council, their discussions sharp and urgent. Prideful and disciplined, they struggled to comprehend a threat that wasn't just brute strength or superior reflexes, but psychological warfare and unpredictability. Both sides understood that this was more than a simple confrontation. It was a clash of philosophies, a battle between rigid order and chaotic adaptability. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance, poised on the decisions made in these fleeting moments. The stage was set, the pieces in motion. The greatest hunt the galaxy had ever seen was about to begin.
In the shadow depths of Nexus, the first move was subtle yet significant. The human operative initiated a carefully planned disruption, an act designed not to destroy, but to unbalance. Communications were intercepted, supply routes rerouted, and key players unsettled. Vexthul and the Paragons responded swiftly, their military precision tested as the station teetered on the edge of chaos. Every countermeasure was met with an unpredictable human countermove, a dance of strategy and counter-strategy. The conflict was no longer merely physical, it had become a battle of minds. The humans' ingenuity clashed against the Paragons' disciplined tactics, each trying to outwit the other in a game with galaxy-wide stakes. As tensions escalated, the eyes of countless species turned toward Nexus. What began as a quiet challenge was blossoming into a confrontation that could reshape the cosmic order. And in the midst of it all, the human remained calm, a shadow moving through the storm, always one step ahead.
The true war at Nexus was fought not in open combat, but in the unseen spaces, encrypted data streams, hidden corridors, and whispered conversations. The human operative excelled in this realm, turning information into a weapon sharper than any blade. Vexthul's forces scrambled to adapt, deploying advanced AI systems to track anomalies and anticipate moves. Yet the humans' unpredictability rendered many defenses ineffective. Every victory seemed to come at a cost, every gain matched by a new challenge. Allies on both sides engaged in covert operations, sabotaging, spying, and manipulating the delicate balance. The line between friend and foe blurred as loyalty shifted with the tides of conflict. Amid the chaos, the human remained a symbol of relentless determination, inspiring those who sought change and unsettling those clinging to the old order. The Nexus trade station, once a haven of order and commerce, had become a crucible where the future of the galaxy was being forged in shadows.
The tides of conflict at Nexus began to shift. The human operatives' subtle tactics had begun to wear down the Paragon's resolve, exposing cracks in their once impenetrable armor. Allies who had once hesitated now openly questioned their loyalty to the old order. In the bustling corridors, whispers of rebellion stirred. The diverse species they called Nexus home watched closely, some quietly aligning with the humans' vision of change, others desperate to preserve the status quo. Vexthal felt the weight of the shifting balance. His pride wrestled with the undeniable truth: the galaxy's apex predator was no longer untouchable. The humans' persistence, adaptability, and cunning were rewriting the rules of survival. This chapter of the galactic saga was far from over. The storm had passed its breaking point, and the outcome remained uncertain. But one thing was clear: the future would belong to those who dared to evolve.
The inevitable confrontation between Vexthal and the human operative drew near. Both predators, shaped by vastly different evolutionary paths, now faced off amidst the heart of the Nexus trade station. The station's atmosphere thickened with anticipation as species from across star systems gathered, some out of curiosity, others with vested interests in the outcome. The marketplace, once a place of commerce, transformed into an arena where the old order and the new collided.
The dust had barely settled when the echoes of the clash reverberated throughout Nexus. Neither Vexthal nor the human had emerged as an outright victor. Instead, a grudging respect had been forged in the crucible of battle. The Paragons, humbled by the encounter, began to reconsider their approach. The old ways of dominance and fear gave way to cautious diplomacy and tentative alliances. Meanwhile, the human operative vanished into the shadows once more, his mission far from complete. His presence had ignited a spark, a symbol of change that resonated with many species across the galaxy. Nexus Trade Station, once a bastion of order amid chaos, was evolving into a crossroads of possibilities. The food chain had shifted, not through brute force, but through resilience, intelligence, and the unyielding spirit of survival. A new era was dawning, one where the most dangerous predator was not always the strongest, but often the one who refused to give up.
News of the clash at Nexus spread rapidly through star systems, carried by traders, mercenaries, and diplomats alike. The tale of a human matching, even outwitting, the galaxy's fiercest apex predator became legend overnight. In distant colonies and remote outposts, species reconsidered their place in the cosmic order. Some sought to emulate the human's adaptability. Others shunned the old power structures that had long dictated survival. Back at Nexus, the station hummed with renewed energy. New alliances formed, old grudges softened, and a fragile peace began to take root. The balance was delicate, but it held, for now. Vexthal retreated to his clan's stronghold, reflecting on the lessons learned. He was no longer just a hunter. He was part of a changing galaxy where strength was measured in more than teeth and claws. The human operative, a shadow once more, prepared for the next phase of his mission. The universe was vast, and the game was far from over.
As the human operative moved silently through the sprawling sectors of the galaxy, the web of intrigue and alliances he had begun to weave tightened around the old power structures. Each contact, each whispered agreement,
added a new thread to the growing network that threatened to upend centuries of dominance. Across star systems, resistance grew among those tired of the relentless hierarchy imposed by apex predators like the paragons. The humans' influence was a beacon for the marginalized, those who had long been prey, now ready to rise. Meanwhile, the paragons faced increasing pressure, their authority challenged not just by force, but by the insidious spread of ideas that celebrated resilience, unity, and strategic cunning over brute strength. The galaxy was changing. The future belonged to those who could navigate the complexities of this new order, balancing old instincts with new realities. In the shadows, the human operative prepared for his next move, knowing that every step forward brought both hope and danger.
The fragile peace within Nexus was shattered by an unexpected explosion, an act of sabotage that sent shockwaves throughout the station. No one claimed responsibility, but fingers quickly pointed in every direction. The human operative recognized the act as a catalyst, an event engineered to force the galaxy's factions into open conflict. It was a dangerous gambit, one that threatened to unravel the tenuous alliances carefully built. Vexthul, compelled by both pride and survival, mobilized his forces to hunt down the saboteurs. Yet the chaos played into the hands of the human and his allies, who used the turmoil to advance their agenda. The explosion ignited old rivalries and distrust, pushing species to choose sides in a conflict that was rapidly escalating beyond Nexus. The balance was tipping, and the galaxy braced for the storm to come. Amid the chaos, the human remained a steady force, a reminder that even in darkness, strategy and perseverance could shape destiny.
The dust of conflict slowly settled across Nexus and the surrounding star systems. The aftermath of the sabotage and ensuing clashes had irrevocably altered the galactic landscape. Old hierarchies crumbled as new coalitions rose, alliances forged not merely by power, but by shared vision and mutual respect. The human operative, though still a shadow, became a symbol of change and hope for many. Vexthul and the Paragons adapted, embracing a future where survival demanded more than strength. It required diplomacy, innovation, and an understanding of diverse perspectives. As trade resumed and the corridors of Nexus once again filled with life, a new chapter began, one where the galaxy's inhabitants recognized that the true apex predator was not the mightiest beast, but the one who evolved with the times. The universe, in all its vastness, had taught a timeless lesson. Survival belongs to the adaptable, the persistent, and those who dare to rewrite the rules.
And that's where we leave our story. A galaxy forever changed by the relentless spirit of one human, proving that true power lies not in might, but in adaptation and persistence. If you enjoyed this journey through the stars, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more thrilling sci-fi stories and cosmic adventures. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And if you want to dive deeper, check out our next video, linked right here, where we explore another tale of survival and mystery in the vast universe. Thanks for watching, and remember, in the cosmic dance of predator and prey, the most dangerous player is always the one who refuses to give up. See you in the next video.